How do you do? This is Trixie the Golden Witch, ranting, raving, Ota Queen, mother of AniTube, and this is ASE Presents Yig Studios Vlogust. Day something. I don't remember. I'm filming these out of order. But this one's about my favorite anime of 2020 and 2021, both years that I have not made any kind of favorite anime list of, and I kind of want to catch up on what I think's been good so far this decade. Now, this decade of anime has been pretty defined by sequels and major franchises that either started right at the end of the 2010s or right at the start of the 2020s. Actually, pretty much all stuff that's being carried over from the late 2010s. I think Jujutsu Kaisen might have started in 2020, and that's like the biggest, newest thing. And I've seen like 13 episodes of that, and I really didn't like it at first. The first like 8 episodes, I wasn't feeling it, but when it got into the big tournament, like battle, well, not even a tournament, it was like a Chunin exams, basically, from Naruto, it got a lot more fun. Just like watching cool character designs do cool moves on each other is sort of the core appeal of that. I haven't seen enough of it to know if the storytelling ever really gets interesting, but for me, it really wasn't. That's like the biggest new news in the world of anime is like Jujutsu Kaisen and like Spy Family getting an adaptation, which I've still only seen the first episode of that, and that's from this year, so I'm not even going to cover it in this video. You know, we got Chainsaw Man coming up as another major adaptation, but in the world of original anime, there has been a lot of focus on films, and that seems like a real shot in the dark kind of situation. The most recent film I've seen was Belle, and I really didn't like that movie. So right now I'm kind of just talking about the negative aspects of the last couple years, but that's sort of why I haven't been as focused on anime. I just haven't seen a lot of exciting stuff happening right now, and I don't really take that as like anime is dying or anything crazy like that. I think we just went through like a real renaissance period, actually, where like the 2010s were super interesting, but it was a lot of people doing new stuff and trying to figure out what works. And now we're in a period where people who did figure out what works are still doing that, and everyone else is kind of like still trying to build or is brand new and is trying to emerge onto this already very crowded scene. But it does seem like now there are just way more sequels, way more shows that continue, like manga adaptations that just keep going than ever before. And I think that's great for the fan base, because that's honestly what people have mostly wanted. For most of anime's existence, the most popular stuff has either been extremely long forms series or like stuff that would blow up, and then because of the complications of how it was produced and the rights holding and all that, or even just because the manga hasn't come that far yet, you'd have these anime that just kind of stop, and then you have to wait a really long time and never hear about it again, or it changes studio hands 5 times. And like now we're starting to get into a place where people are way more protective of IP and of shows that they know they're going to continue, and of like keeping your team together and treating them right so they can keep making these shows long into the future. That's sort of the ideal model. So I do think it's good that we're in this period where we have sustainable IPs that studios can attach themselves to, but it also means that there's less variety and fewer chances that something is going to click with me. And because I tend to most favor the sort of weirder, obscure, offshoot type content that I don't necessarily think deserves to exist unless it is, profitable enough and good enough for the people who made it as an experience to have been worthwhile. But like, I don't think that just making stuff weird for the sake of it, or making stuff like artsy or whatever for the sake of it is good. It's just like some people can do it well, and those people should. But whereas the late 2010s had this huge boom in like Masaaki Yuasa work and everything he was doing with Science Saru, like the 2020s gave us Eizouken. That's where I'm going to start my honorable mentions. Like the shows that I haven't finished that I know are really good. Keep your hands off the Eizouken. I only saw the first 3 episodes of. The first one alone had blown my mind. Like I was in tears over it. It was just the ultimate love letter to like creative endeavor, and especially to animation as an endeavor, and to like showing how difficult it is to form a group that's going to get something done. I actually would love to watch this show with my own production crew, because it's about a small crew like mine. So, that's one I'd like to catch up on, but I still haven't finished it. I haven't found time to actually do that, and I'd like to make a video talking about what I have seen in the last 2 years before I go and promise I'm going to actually watch every single show I know is interesting, because that could take years. Towards the start of 2020, there were a couple of shows that I only saw the first episodes of, but I remember liking them a lot. Ishizoku Reviewers, the show about going to fantasy brothels and reviewing the sex with the monster girls, mostly as a framework through which to just talk about all the fetishistic ideas of what could be done with these monster girls. It's pretty much pornography, but it's framed in a way that's just entertaining enough and adds enough context into it that it's interesting for more than just watching the sex scenes. It's more like a sexual thought experiment, if you will. I didn't end up watching that much of it, but I did like what I saw. ID Invaded, I'm not sure how it's supposed to be pronounced. There was a 2-part first episode that I really, really loved, and then I never ended up continuing it. I'd love to watch the rest of that. I liked what I saw of Maojo de Oyasumi, the Sleepy Princess show. That was really adorable. Only ended up watching the first episode of it. And there are a couple of shows that I really cared about from the previous decade that have continued and I haven't caught up fully. Beastars. The first season was incredible. The second season was, from what I've seen, has been really great. I saw the first half of it. I just never got around to the next half. And same goes for Slime Isekai. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Loved the first season. Love what I've seen of the second season. Haven't finished it. I actually stopped right before whatever crazy thing happens. Anybody who's seen the show will know what I'm talking about, but I don't, because I haven't. I just know that something crazy happens halfway through season 2. So those are my honorable mentions. Those are shows that I've seen enough of it to know it's good. I just haven't finished it. So I can't really put it on a list of what I thought were the best shows I saw these 2 years. And I also want to emphasize there's tons of stuff that I haven't seen. There's stuff that's been recommended to me. People always tell me I'm going to like Sunny Boy. I haven't seen any of it. I just can't speak to its quality at all until I've seen it. There's plenty of artsy and unique shows that I end up loving, plenty that I end up hating, shows that people tell me I'm going to like, and then I find some weird reason to nitpick it or something. So I'm not going to promise that anything that I haven't seen any of is any good. But I do know there's lots of great stuff that I haven't seen any of and that I don't know when I'm going to, so I can't really incorporate it into this list. I just want to tell you what I did really like from 2020 and 2021. And there was a lot I didn't. So there's very little that I actually of the lots of stuff that I did sample from those years. Not a lot of it was actually that great. Out of the 8 shows that I've got on this list, I guess the least important one is probably The God of High School. This was just a really, really fun animation showcase. It was in a period when Crunchyroll was putting a lot of money into adapting Korean webtoons, and this was a really popular, long-running action series that ended up being adapted, I believe, by Studio Mappa, and they just brought in tons of animation talent. It was almost like One Punch Man level of just showcase of awesome fights, and pretty much the story is just a tournament arc. It's a show that took the concept of tournament arcs that usually happen in shonen battle anime and just said, no, that's the whole show. It's just a tournament arc. So it's mostly the way that it establishes its 3 main characters who are all incredibly likable and have great chemistry, and the way that they're explored during action scenes. It's just it's a magnetic show. It's fun to watch. It's exciting. It's eclectic. There are certain episodes that aren't as interesting where it's getting more into the plot angle or diverting a little bit from the main characterization. Those episodes are not as memorable and stuff that I probably might skip over if I was going to rewatch the show and I just rewatch the really hype moments. But the hype moments that are there were the most hype I remember seeing that year. So I thought it was a pretty fun experience and I would recommend it. Another one that I actually haven't finished, so I could have put it in honorable mentions, but I've seen 15 episodes, is The Great Pretender. And that show is just like the coolest, slickest, most like, I don't know, broadly appealing in my mind. Like it's a show that should be able to appeal to as many people as like a Cowboy Bebop or something like that. It should be like an Adult Swim show that lots of people know about. And instead it's a Netflix show that very few people know about. I think it could grow in popularity over time, but I don't know if it's ever going to get a second season or anything like that. And I didn't finish the first one myself, so I'm part of the problem. But the first arc is just this really tightly constructed crime caper about duplicity. It's a show about people who are basically like criminal spies. They are always con men is, I guess, the better term for it. It's a group of con men, but at an extremely high level. And so watching them pull off these ops where like everybody who's on the team is a con man, so they're kind of conning each other, but sometimes they're just pretending to con each other for the bigger con of working together. And like you're always in this position of viewing them as simultaneously like all best friends, but also all really good actors. So like it creates this tension that just permeates all of it, even when it's being like fun and just kind of laid back and exploring the characters. And I think it's really fun. It's super pretty to look at. It's got some of the best character designs in recent years from the same designer who did Evangelion, but the art style has like evolved so much over the years that it's come to a totally new and refreshing place to me with this show. So great thing to look at, listen to, and enjoy. Talentless Nana was a kind of overlooked like shonen adaptation. I don't know if it's ever going to get a second season, which is unfortunate because it didn't seem like super popular, but it's about a world where there's all these children with superpowers have been like gathered to this island to have a school that's just on this island. But actually one of the people there is a agent working for the government called Nana, who doesn't actually have any powers, but pretends that she can read minds because she's just really, really good at reading people and situations. And she has to kill all of the superpowered children. Now that I've seen The Boys, I'm just like thinking about how conceptually similar this is to The Boys, but it is basically like, what if Billy Butcher was a cute little anime girl murdering, soups at high schools? It is pretty much anime The Boys. And it's really good. It's not like shockingly violent like The Boys, but as shonen manga go, it is about a girl like murdering all her classmates or them murdering each other. There's lots of just very bad people in it. So it's edgy, but it's edgy in a way that I enjoy. It's not too over the top. It's not it's more heady than it is like trying to show you bad people or anything like that. Like it's trying to be clever, and that's what I like about it. It's similar to like Mahou Shoujo Sight, I guess, that kind of tone. Made in Abyss had a film release that was very good. Made in Abyss is actually currently airing its second season, and I haven't watched any of that yet. So I will get back to you with opinions on that once it's actually over, probably. But I had watched the whole first season back when that aired. I was absolutely in love with it at the very beginning. It was a little bit rocky in the middle, but then it got really emotional towards the end of the show, and then the movie just like carried the threads perfectly. It was just an arc. Like they just took the next arc and said, we're doing that as a film instead of as a show. And then now it's back as a show. So the movie is necessary. It's not like an offshoot thing. It is literally just like an interquel of 2 seasons of anime. And if it's held up as well as that film did, then I'll be excited to watch it. I don't know what happens. I haven't read the manga, so I'm not like spoiled to anything. It'll be a fun adventure to go on, especially if I could bring some of my friends, because none of my friends have heard of this show or know anything about it, and it would be really entertaining to see their reactions to where it ends up going. Another show that continued this year that I did watch and think is great, not this year, but these 2 years, was Aggretsuko. I think seasons 3 and 4 might have come out in 2020 and 2021 respectively. If not, then it was just season 4, but I have a whole video about Aggretsuko where I went really in depth reviewing it. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Check out that video for more information. I also have a video on the Rebuild of Evangelion series, part of the Anime Alphabet series, where I went through all the films, including the new 3.0 plus 1.0, and analyzing them in depth about like what I think the intent was and how I think it was actually pretty well realized by the film series. So yeah, 3.0 plus 1.0 kind of rescued Rebuild for me. I don't love it as much as the original. I would probably give it like an 8 out of 10 overall, maybe a 9 if I'm being really generous to how good it looks and the production and all that. But yeah, it's pretty good. Alright, so something I really did not expect myself to be talking about how great it was is Mushoku Tensei, because I really didn't like it at first. I was kind of just put off by the first couple episodes, and the whole first arc made me feel weird, and I talked about it on the Cantant show that I was doing back then at the time, and basically everyone I talked to liked the show way more than I did, and so it got to a point where I was like, I must have missed something, I need to pay more attention, I need to watch it back over, and I did kind of find myself like starting to understand what was like going on in this show, like starting to feel like I got the undercurrent messaging, and so I made a video about that. You can go watch that video to hear like the full opinion, but yeah, I ended up liking it, and the second season had a bunch of moments that impressed me, so I would watch more. And lastly, the best thing that has come out in the last 2 years is also something I hated at first and never thought I'd be talking about how great it is, but that would be Attack on Titan, the final season. Yeah, I didn't like Attack on Titan at all when it first was airing. Well, that's not true. I liked the first couple episodes. I was endeared to the action, and I thought it looked really incredible when they were fighting. But I didn't like all the people just like yelling with speed lines over it, and like, I don't know. It was hard for me to engage with it on like a aesthetic level, which is, especially back then, the main way that I was like engaging with new anime. So I just kind of was like, I don't want to look at this, and like wasn't really catching on to what the story was trying to say or where it was going. When I ended up marathoning the show for Cantent, like, once I realized the structure of the show is basically just a sequence of really large battles that are described in such extensive, elaborate depth that you can understand all the cause and effect of what goes on during those battles, that got a lot more interesting to me. Because really the whole first season is just it has the introduction 4 episodes, and then like just a battle scene that goes for pretty much the rest of the first half, and the whole second half is just a battle against the female Titan, pretty much. And so it's about watching mysteries unravel through the course of an exciting, like, complicated battle, description. And as it goes along and the plot gets better and more complicated and more interesting, and there's more at stake in each battle, it just naturally compounds everything that's good about it. Like, anything that works about Attack on Titan just works harder and harder and gets better and better as it goes, in my opinion. And when I got to the final season, that was when it really opened up for me. Like, I enjoyed season 3. I thought it became emotionally gripping and interesting, but I still wasn't really intrigued by the actual story until season 4. And then it became that everything happening was interesting to me now. Like, there was like a feeling where with season 3, when they were going through all this stuff with like the church and all the social elements of life inside the walls and all that, like, I appreciated what was trying to be done, but it just felt a little too ham-fisted. The characters weren't like believable and likable enough. And when we got into the Marley arc, I feel like all the characters that were established there through the lens of Reiner going back and like having his emotional experiences there, and like fleshing out that world so much, and the mystery of like why Eren isn't with everyone anymore, and like just expanding the world building to such a crazy degree that it recontextualizes everything that you saw before, like, and makes you think about it in a new way. I think it's pretty brilliant. I think it's been pulled off pretty well. We are still not at the end. There have been 2 seasons of Attack on Titan, the final season so far, and there is a third season to come. I have heard about the way the manga ends. I know it's very controversial. I think they're trying to like stave it off as long as possible. And I think they are probably going to go through with it with the anime. But you know, I am excited about it. I think it would be hard for it to not be a super interesting ending, no matter what it is. And I know a little bit about what it is, and it sounds interesting. So yeah, I like Attack on Titan a whole lot. I didn't think that was going to be the case, but as of the final season, it is. And it was, as I was looking through everything that came out in the last 2 years, I was like, well, nothing was more hyped to me or had more like intriguing thought put into it than Attack on Titan. So that's my choice for the best anime of the last 2 years. I know it was most people's choice for the best anime of like 2013, but I've finally decided I thought it was good about now. Anyways, that's it for my top anime 2020 and 2021. Tell me what you think I really need to check out that I missed. Tell me like if if there's something you think I need to make a video about it. Especially, it's easier for me to watch something if I can justify it by knowing that there's a type of content that has a built-in audience that I can make out of it. So, if there's something you want to see, letting me know that is the best way to get to see it. Anyways, this is Vlogust. Go ahead and check out all the other vlogs that have come out this month. Look forward to the ones that are coming. Support me on patreon.com/goldenwitchfire, where if you give me $5 a month or more, I will rant about whatever you want every single month. You get a rant request, DM me the request. I'll let you know if it's something that I know about and can talk about, because I'm not going to watch any movies or anything for the sake of a rant request. Also, if you like to read, goldenwitch.substack.com is where I do written posts that don't become videos, because I also like to write sometimes. And I make music, so if you like hip-hop, you should be listening to Sucker Punch. We're on Spotify, we're here on YouTube. All of our songs are on the ASE Presents channel, where I also do several podcasts that are going to be coming out every single week. And I've got just tons and tons of content. So look everywhere on the channel, go to the links in the description. Thanks again for watching, and never forget, anime forever.